Hello class, my name is Jose Aguirre and I will be presenting to you metacognitive mechanics, the colon as well as the semicolon. I chose both of these punctuation marks in order to focus on my metacognitive mechanics PowerPoint because these are the two that I actually struggle with the most myself in my writing. So I hope I'm actually able to help you in order to understand these a little bit better so that way you can use them correctly in your writing. So let's go over a few things that we'll be discussing in this presentation. So we'll be discussing what is a semicolon, semicolon rules as well as examples. We'll be looking at what is a colon, and we'll be talking about colon rules and examples. And then we'll also be discussing about my current struggles and how actually I've been able to differentiate, but also how I've been able to use these punctuation marks effectively in my writing after learning these rules. So let's start off by talking about what is a semicolon. The most common use of a semicolon is to join two independent clauses without using a conjunction like and or but. An independent clause is a clause that can stand alone as a complete sentence. So let's keep this in mind as we're looking at our next examples of a semicolon. So at our first example, I ordered a cheeseburger for lunch. Life's too short for counting calories. Our first part of this example, I ordered a cheeseburger for lunch, can stand as its own separate sentence, and which is an independent clause. The second part, life's too short for counting calories, as well follows the same rule. It can stand as its own sentence or independent clause, but it's actually joined by a semicolon. Let's look at our second example. Money is the root of all evil. I don't believe the reverse is necessarily true. Once again, the first part of the sentence, money is the root of all evil, is its own independent clause and can stand as its own complete sentence. I don't believe the reverse is necessarily true follows the same rule as our semicolon rule in the last slide. So now let's look at a colon. So what is a colon? Colon follows independent clauses and can be used to present a list, an explanation, draw attention to something, or join ideas together. So these are a few colon examples that I actually found helpful in order for me to understand what a colon is. To make the perfect jam sandwich, you need three things: some bread, butter, and strawberry jam. So in the first example, we are presenting a list, but showing emphasis to the second part. In the second example, life is a puzzle. Half of the fun is trying to work it out. This specific example, we are showing emphasis to the second part as well, but it is an explanation. Life is like a puzzle. Half the fun is in trying to work it out. So my biggest struggle was between the difference between the semicolon and colon. I was never able to differentiate between the two. So let's look at this. A semicolon is where two separate clauses are usually of equal importance or emphasis, with a semicolon implying a closer relationship between the clauses than a full stop would be between two sentences. For example, the first trial took place this morning, the second is planned for this afternoon. As well as in a colon, we're also taking a look at two independent clauses in a manner similar to that of a semicolon. But when a colon is used, however, the emphasis tends to lie on the second clause. So a colon is the appropriate choice when the second clause is an explanation, elaboration, or example of what has been introduced in the first clause. For example, the first trial took place in the morning. Everything went smoothly and the results were excellent. So why do I struggle specifically between the semicolon and the colon? And I actually found this little cartoon, as you can say, on the side, and it's asking, or this colon is actually asking the semicolon, why are you crying? Nobody understands me. And I found this actually really relevant in my writing because I feel the exact same way. I never actually understood how to use either the colon or the semicolon. And if I ever used any of it in my writing, I actually used it incorrectly, but I don't remember ever actually learning the proper rules in order to use them correctly. So instead of actually using or learning how to use it correctly, I actually separated the sentences, or I would use a comma in my writing um, instead of going through the mechanics or being docked points in any of my writing instead of using a colon or a semicolon. I've also encountered that I don't use either frequently, so I've never felt the need to actually learn any of them. I hope that after this presentation, you feel more comfortable with using both mechanics rules of the semicolon as well as the colon, and I thank you so much for your time.